Welcome. Thanks for watching Grounded Leadership today. I'm Cheryl Mitchell, the president of Treleven, which is a retreat and learning center here in Addison County. And we really work at the intersection of nature, spirit, and social justice. So I'm totally thrilled to have as our guest today Chief Don Stevens, who's the chief of the Nulhegan Abenaki Nation. So thank you for coming, Chief Stevens.
Well, thank you, Cheryl.
I appreciate you being here so much. It feels like so many of the things that we've been talking about with other people, you've been dealing with all your life, I'm guessing. And I'm wondering, can you give us a little bit of background about sort of the recognition process of the Abenaki Nation here in Vermont? Because I know it was not for a long time.
Yeah, back in the 70s, actually, the Missisquoi tribe went for recognition, and they asked the governor to do a proclamation, and the governor gave a proclamation, but then it was taken away by Governor Snelling the following year. So they were unrecognized at that point. So it wasn't in statute, so it could be given or taken away by a governor. So later on, of course, they also went for federal recognition, which was denied. But I came onto the scene in the political sense in around 2005, and I got into the political world because my grandmother was listed in the eugenics survey, and she changed her name 3 times so she wasn't
To avoid
sterilization, yeah. But she passed away in 1994. So I said, before my mother passes away, I want us to be proud of who we are.
Yeah.
So I started getting into the political end of things, and in 2006 we were able to pass us Abenaki people as being a minority in the legislative session that year. And it also created a Commission on Native American Affairs, and I was appointed by Governor Douglas to that first commission. So then after that we worked on trying to get our actual legal recognition, because we weren't considered a legal Indian by the United States unless you were a citizen of a recognized or state tribe. Since there were no recognized state or federal tribes, we had to get that legal designation. And that's when we started working on getting our applications in and working with legislators to pass our legal recognition.
So you finally got legal recognition, and what does that mean for the tribe?
Well, it's what it means is, we were always here, so we're Abenaki regardless, right? But a European body has to recognize you to be legitimate or to be legal in that sense. So then you could take advantage of the Indian Arts and Crafts Act, which allows citizens to label their art as Native American or Abenaki, and you can't do that unless you are a citizen of a recognized tribe. So that's why by getting recognition, it protected our artists from being fined or jailed or anything else for mislabeling their art. And it also opens up, it's strange enough that it also opens up some kind of validation to other people that you're real.
That you're real. So I'm wondering did that
crazy.
Mean lots of people were able to come forward who had changed their names and things?
Well, I think it wasn't so much coming forward. We had our tribal roles. We had our tribe that we had to submit to the state in order for the genealogists and historians and others to review our application and say, yes, they're who they are. And then the commission had to say, yes, we agree with that, and then it had to go through the House and the Senate and the AG and the governor. So that's why I said we had a lot that we had to do in order to get this recognition.
And were you the chief the whole time taking that process along? Or can
yes.
you talk to me about leadership within?
Yeah, sure. As for leadership, traditionally, the heads of each family, we were nomadic people, right? So traditionally, the heads of each family would come together and decide things, like on a rendezvous point of basis or whatever. And they would decide things for their family, and they would elect someone to do a task. Like, say, if you needed someone to work with the the political bodies, they would elect someone that was good at it to be able to do that interface with local and state government.
Yeah.
If there was a war, they'd elect a war chief to lead that. And when those tasks were done, they would be absorbed back into the community.
Wow.
So that's the traditional way of the leadership, which is
Great.
today's tribal council.
Yeah.
So because there's always a need for someone like a chief to be able to speak on behalf of their people to state and local government, I was elected in 2010 in order to fill that role. Before that, I was on the commission.
And it sounds like it brings lots of other responsibilities with it besides just talking to the politicians.
Yeah, the responsibility is you're supposed to make sure that your culture and language and other things that's happening in the tribe, you're like a facilitator or a project manager. You're making sure that the legislative body of the council is writing laws to help the people, and then you're interfacing with the elders who make sure that you're doing the spiritual and language work, so everything kind of is cohesive. And we're here to protect the future of our children.
How,
Our
and
grandchildren.
are your children in public school? Are your children?
Yep. They're public schools, but we have a Title VII Indian education. I think it's Title VI now.
Yeah.
It's Indian education, where we have after-school programs paid for through the Department of Education, and it goes to the supervisory unions. And we hold after-school programs to help not only teach our own children, but other children that are in the school system. Franklin County, Missisquoi has Title VII up in Franklin County. We have it in Orleans and North Country.
And if we wish that it were happening here in Addison County, is there a process for doing that?
Yeah, we would have to get together and see what Native children is in the school systems, and then we would have to apply for that through the Department of Education to also accept that area, and then we'd have to find people to provide that service, like teachers and other things that could help do that. So it's a process to get approved, but it can be done, and it helps the school systems, and it helps to educate the supervisory unions on our existence and history.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you actually commuting back and forth from Orleans County? You also work at the counseling service,
I do. I work
right?
at the counseling service as an IT manager and HIPAA security officer, but I live in Shelburne, so I have a 30 to 45-minute commute every day. But our tribal headquarters and our land is up in Barton, Vermont, and so it's our territory. Normally, Nulhegans is in the Northeast Kingdom area to Lake Memphremagog, and then it swings down this way and down towards the southern part. The Cohassuck, the Coas, is another recognized tribe. They're mainly in Orange County, Newberry, Haverhill, and El Nu is really the southern districts. The Bennington, the Windsors, and Missisquoi is Alburgh, Grand Isle, St. Albans County.
Wow. So, and all those tribes have their own tribal councils? And
They do.
Do you get together on a regular basis?
We do. We have a thing called the Abenaki Alliance, which we started in 2006. That's when the actual Abenaki Nation was formed. Before then, there's a group of people, but we came together because the legislators, we wanted to fight for recognition. We all wanted the same thing. Right. And the legislators said either come united or don't come to us at all. So we got together and we had this big meeting of the chiefs, and we all agreed that we would create this thing called Abenaki Alliance and the nation to fight for that recognition, and at the same time create the Abenaki Artists Association, so our artists had a way to promote their art, and people who were going to buy authentic Abenaki things could go to this website or go to this and find out, yes, these people are actually recognized as an Abenaki artisan.
What you're wearing here, is that a native?
It is. It was a necklace I made. It's a bear claws, and it's bear is prevalent in who I am and part of my spirit.
Yeah.
So I wear it. It's my protection.
So your grandmother had passed on.
She did.
But when you were still very young, or did she help to bring you along in the culture?
No, I was older. I mean, we knew we have native backgrounds, but as you can imagine, anybody that had to avoid sterilization did not want to openly talk about their culture and their past, because that's quite a traumatic thing when you're forced to try to elude something that people don't think you're desirable and unfit. So we talked a little bit about it, but she was not too big on talking about it. So I found out a lot from relatives and of what has happened. And oddly to think that when we went for recognition, the state-sponsored eugenics survey, the 1931 Sterilization Act, which created the eugenics survey through UVM, actually they were very good at tracking our people. So I used those documents because they tracked my family from my grandmother all the way up 5 generations.
Wow.
So I used those records to show that we never left,
It's
that
nice
we
to
stayed
know that
here.
something good came
Well,
out of that
we try to
horrible
always look
thing.
at making
Yeah.
lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
You always have to try to look at the positive things and see how you can use things, not to be a victim, because I don't look at us as victims. I look at us as survivors, right? Because we're not less than anybody. We're survivors of that era.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to convince UVM to do the apology for the sterilization program last year, which is an awesome thing. So
It's an awesome thing. And I've also been I got to hear you talk about, the desire of people to be able to forage, and that you've gotten access to corporate lands, national lands, state lands, and many of us who are private landowners are very interested in, can we open our lands? And I'm wondering if you would talk about your relationship to land.
yeah, and as a leader, going back to the leadership stuff, is that part of the responsibility of a leader is making sure others can you help them unlock their greatest potential, and we have to look at how do we work within a system that is forced upon us, right?
Yeah.
So one of the talents that I have that I'm most proud of is I can look at the greater picture and say, what are we trying to achieve and how do we do it? Now, when we got recognized, people were afraid that we were going to build casinos and take land and do all kinds. So they wrote in the bill that, we don't want them to, do land claims and all this stuff. So, which automatically would kind of deny us from any access, right? So I said, well, what did our ancestors do? Ownership was kind of a foreign concept a little bit. Like we had territories to be stewards of.
But you said you were nomadic.
Right, but we didn't have deeds.
Right.
So what we did is we needed access to gather medicines and gather food and be stewards of that land, and then it would take care of us if we took care of it. So I looked at that as the same process as our ancestors. Is if somebody doesn't deed us the land or give us that land, and we still need to be able to provide for our people, how do we do it? So I asked people, well, why couldn't we have licenses or access easements or anything else to people's property? So even if we don't own it, we can access it.
Yeah.
So now if you go to our website, you'll see all the licenses that we've got things from private. We've got stuff from the state of Vermont. We got things from the federal government, access to lands. We have private corporations, and now I'm starting with the individuals, because you have to prove to other people that this is viable and no harm will come to them. So individual landowners would be like, whoa, I don't want to be the first one. So by seeing all of these licenses and the world hasn't collapsed, that it's more of an option for individual landowners to say, you know what, we wouldn't mind letting people come and forage on our land to gather medicines or gather foods or stuff for art, and it's a good partnership, because they're giving back to the original inhabitants of the land to continue to do their traditions and cultures the way they always have.
Yeah,
and I think it's wonderful.
You seem to be in partnership with so many. I'm very struck by what you've been doing with Middlebury College and the beginning of the language program there.
Well, the key is partnership, right? Because in order to do anything in this world, you have to develop networks and partnerships. So to us, it makes logical sense that some of the institutions that had brought harm to our people, instead of, like say UVM, for instance, who sponsored the eugenics, that was a dark time in history. But in order to heal, you have to acknowledge that there's a wound.
Right.
So once you acknowledge the wound is there, then you can treat it. So now that we're partnering with UVM to help grow our foods and other things, we're also doing that with Middlebury College to help grow food at the Knoll, and to do our language is close to extinction. So Middlebury has a world-class international language program, and they thought that they saw the value in trying to preserve our language and to promote it so it doesn't go extinct. And the same with Sterling College, to be able to help. They're an agricultural school to help with our crops. And so it's about partnerships, and it's about whatever people have the ability to do, we want to try to partner. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not just, one person taking all.
I've been really amazed by how rich your website is in terms of opportunities to learn more. And I'm wondering if you could talk, the one I was very struck because Treleven is interested in sort of land and spirit and ways of learning about Native spirituality. And I'm wondering if you could talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of Native spirituality work and our connection to the land and animals and stuff. But the way I look at it, to give you a quick preview of how it affects us today, is I think people lose connection to the source. Because if you remember a long time, you're not too far in the distant past, is that if your grandfather had a farm, I mean, you helped him. You worked on the farm. You grew your food. If you had an apple and it had a spot in it, well, you cut the spot out and you ate it. If it was too damaged, then you make a pie. And if you couldn't make a pie out of it, then you make cider. I mean, you always had a way to use what was given to you by nature. The thing that I'm seeing nowadays is with technology and the way our food systems is, and we can see that a lot of farms go out in Vermont, is that people rely on other people to bring them things. So like if you have a teenager goes, your mother picks up apples at the store and brings them home, if they see a spot in it, they might throw it away and say, I'll just get another one that's not bruised.
Yeah.
Or mom will go down to the store and get another one. So when they lose connection, they lose the connection to the source. So when they lose that connection, then they may not care about it. And when they don't care about it, we see what's happening to the earth and the climate. So it's trying to bring people away from technology a little bit to get reconnected to the land, the forest, their food sources, because that's what sustains their lives. And that's what I'm talking about.
Talk to me about the paradox of you're the IT person for the counseling service, and you also have these deep spiritual understandings of the way. Does that seem strange to you? Or
No, because I look at technology as a tool. It can be good or bad. It's how you use it. So for me, like say Facebook, right? I don't want to single out certain things, but I mean, everybody knows Facebook.
Yeah.
I use that because I can send something out to say, we're having a tribal meeting to 12 or 2,000 people at once, and they can all be notified at the same time, right? That's a proper use of that technology to notify everybody, so everybody hears the same message. But I don't get into the who had a sandwich today or who's going to the store or, I'm having a cold today. I don't use that Facebook for that reason. Other people may want to stay in touch with each other, which is their use of it. But I'm just saying is from a technology standpoint, you use it for the benefit and not get sucked into it and replace your social network with artificial people online. Like if you have 500 friends, do you really have 500 friends, right?
Right.
That you could tell your secrets to.
Right.
So I'm saying is technology can be used properly, and it could be in good or bad, depending upon how you use it. It's like anything.
So I'm a little curious. There's at the Crown Point Museum, they usually do a summer program about Native arts and traditions. Is that something from your?
Yeah, we work with them. Elsa used to, I think she still does the curation up there, but there was a room that they were redoing that we would have a display that people can come in and see. But there's also, mostly they work with El Nu, who does living history, because El Nu that's their specialty, is living history. And I know they worked a lot with Crown Point. We've done it in the past, rarely, but not consistently. I think more as they've worked with other tribes to do that. I've put up an airport display at the Burlington International Airport, so anybody, your listeners, want to see our culture, they can go to the Burlington International Airport.
Is it there right now?
Yes, it's on the second floor, and it's a big display of all of our regalia, our our artistry. It's really quite impressive, and it doesn't cost you anything to go in to see it. So I encourage people. And at the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, there's also a place there, and the Echo Center. There's a few things here and there.
Great.
So I mean, you can learn about us or go to our website.
Love it. Okay, well, we're going to run out of time,
Yep.
and I'm wondering if there are other things that you'd like to tell people. I have 18 million questions that I won't have time to ask.
I think the biggest thing is that we're still here. We exist. We're not in the past tense. So if people really want to understand and learn about our culture, our traditions, our spirituality, look at our website, our calendar of events. Talk to us. We have a Snow Snake Games next month where the public can come and play. In the afternoon after we conduct our business, and we have other things throughout the year. We have a place at the Maritime Museum in the summer and other things. So just seek us out and learn the true essence of what you might be looking for. And I think people don't fear what they understand. People who don't understand something, they fear it, and then so our goal is to educate people so it's easy for our grandchildren to live as who they are and not be subject to all the hate groups and hate people out there that are still rampant today that try to deny our existence.
Great. Well, whatever we can do to support you being not hated, we'd love to do. And I really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who like to work with us, that care about us. I'm just saying there's only a select few individuals, like you have in any society, that they're always going to try to spread, discontent and hate. And I just think that's not worth our time.
Right.
We do things through the positiveness that we see, and you can see that all over, that we're working with people.
And you can hear that in your voice and the way you
I'm
explain
very proud
things.
of our
It's
people.
just wonderful.
I mean, our people have survived a lot of things, and we're going to continue to survive and just try to make our lives easier for our kids. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Make their life easier so their kids have a better time.
So we're definitely, for Treleven, we're very interested in being more in partnership.
Thanks. And if
with
anybody
you.
wants to look at partnering with us on anything, or allowing us access to the land, or other things like that, contact us. I mean, it never hurts to have a conversation.
Right. So for those of you that are interested in entering into more partnership or being in touch with Chief Stevens, or going to attend some of the events that he just talked about, his contact information will come up. The website will come up in just a moment. And I wanted to thank you for listening today, and I also wanted to encourage any of you, if you work for a nonprofit, you have a message you'd like to get out, please contact the people here. Jim and Kurt are amazing at the studio. Give them a call and they'll help you put a program together.
Can I say one more thing, if
Of
it's
course.
possible? To all the Abenaki and Native people listening out there that we don't know, or they're not involved, the census is coming up, the 2020 census. We need you to be counted. We need you to make sure to mark yourself as who you're affiliated with, because we need to stand up and finally be proud and be counted as who we are.
Yay. Good
Thank you.
message. Thank you.
Willawinnie.